Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. Right now, wherever you are, I invite you to get comfortable. Perhaps you're lying down or sitting in your favorite chair. Maybe the lights are dim or the world outside has gone quiet. However you've arrived at this moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Take a slow breath in and let it go. We're going to spend some time together exploring something extraordinary, something that's with you every moment of every day, yet remains more mysterious than the deepest ocean or the farthest star. We're going to talk about your brain, the universe you carry inside your skull, the quiet miracle that's listening to these words right now. There's no rush here, no pressure, just gentle curiosity and wonder. So settle in, let your shoulders drop, and let's begin this journey together into the most complex and beautiful structure known to exist anywhere in the cosmos. Your brain is softer than you think. If you've never held a human brain, you might imagine it feels firm, solid, substantial. But the truth is far more delicate and surprising. If you could reach up and touch your own brain, which of course you cannot and should not, it would feel something like soft tofu or warm butter. It has the consistency of firm jelly, yielding gently to pressure, soft enough that it would struggle to hold its own shape without support. This seems almost impossible, doesn't it? That something so soft could be so powerful. But there it rests, cradled in the protective cave of your skull, floating in cerebrospinal fluid like a thought suspended in liquid. About 73% of your brain is water. Just water. The same water that flows in rivers, that falls as rain, that you drink each day. This water is part of you, part of your thoughts, part of every memory you've ever formed. And when we remove that water and look at what remains, we find that 60% of your brain's dry weight is fat. Not the fat we often think about with worry or frustration, but essential, beautiful fat. The kind that insulates the long branches of your neurons, helping electrical signals zip along at incredible speeds. The kind that makes up the membranes of billions of cells, keeping everything separate and organized, yet connected. So here you are, piloting your way through life with a soft, fatty, watery organ that weighs about 3 pounds. It sounds almost fragile, doesn't it? And in a way, it is. Your brain needs its bony shelter. It needs the cushioning fluid around it. It needs to be protected because it's doing something no other known object in the universe can do. It's being you. Every thought you've ever had, every emotion you've felt, every decision you've made, all happening in something softer than your morning scrambled eggs. There's something deeply humbling about this. Something that should make us treat ourselves and each other with more gentleness. Because we're all walking around with this impossibly soft thing inside us, trying its best to make sense of the world, trying to keep us safe, trying to find meaning and connection and joy. And it does all of this while being soft enough to cut with a butter knife. But don't mistake softness for weakness. Your brain's yielding texture is actually part of its genius. It allows for flexibility, for growth, for change. A rigid brain would be a prison. A soft brain is a garden where new things can grow. As you rest right now, just breathing, just being, know that inside your head is something precious and delicate and absolutely irreplaceable. The softness is not a flaw. It's a feature. It's what allows you to be gentle with yourself, to change, to adapt, to become who you're meant to be. You carry a tender thing inside a hard shell, and that tender thing is capable of imagining infinity. Inside your head right now, there are more connections than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Let that sink in for a moment. More connections than stars. You are carrying a galaxy inside you, and it's firing and connecting and communicating, even as you listen to these words. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. 86 billion. If you tried to count them, one per second, it would take you more than 2,700 years. These neurons are the basic building blocks of everything you are. Each one is a tiny cell with long branching arms reaching out to touch other neurons, forming networks of stunning complexity. But the real magic happens in the spaces between. Each neuron can connect to thousands of other neurons, and those connection points, called synapses, number around 100 trillion. 100 trillion synaptic connections in the soft 3 pounds inside your skull. For comparison, our Milky Way galaxy contains somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. Your brain has more synapses than there are stars in our galactic home. Think about what this means. Every thought you have, every sensation you feel, every memory you recall is the result of patterns lighting up across this vast network. When you remember the smell of rain on summer pavement, that's billions of neurons talking to each other in a specific pattern. When you feel love, that's another pattern, just as unique. When you solve a problem, or laugh at a joke, or feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin, patterns within patterns, cascading through your inner galaxy. These neurons communicate using both electricity and chemistry. An electrical impulse races down the length of a neuron, and when it reaches the end, chemicals called neurotransmitters float across the tiny gap to the next neuron. It's like a relay race happening at the speed of thought. Some of these signals travel at speeds up to 268 miles per hour. Others move more slowly, taking their time, carrying different kinds of messages. Right now, this very second, there are countless conversations happening in your brain. Neurons are firing, chemicals are flowing. Electrical storms are dancing across the surface of your cortex. All of this is happening without you having to think about it, without you having to manage or control it. Your brain is taking care of you, coordinating everything from your heartbeat to your breathing to the subtle movements of your eyes as they might drift closed. You are not separate from this process. You are this process. The firing of neurons doesn't create consciousness. The firing of neurons is consciousness experiencing itself. You are a pattern of activity in a galaxy of connections, and that pattern is reading these words, understanding them, maybe even feeling a sense of wonder about its own existence. There's something beautiful about knowing that you contain multitudes, that inside you, right now, there's a conversation bigger and more complex than any conversation happening outside you. You are a universe talking to itself, and occasionally that universe says things like, "I wonder what's for dinner," or "I love you," or "I'm scared," or "I'm home." As you rest here, breathing slowly, you can almost imagine it. The soft galaxy inside you, glowing with tiny sparks of electricity, chemicals drifting like stardust between neurons, patterns forming and dissolving and forming again. You don't have to do anything to make this happen. It's happening because you're alive, because you exist. And that existence, that awareness, is perhaps the most miraculous thing in the known universe. You are a cosmos, contained in softness, wrapped in bone, having an experience of being human. Let's pause for a moment and consider something else remarkable. Your brain doesn't experience reality directly. This might sound strange, but it's true. Your brain sits in darkness, in silence, locked away in its bony cave. It has no direct access to the outside world. It can't see or hear or touch or taste or smell anything on its own. Instead, it depends entirely on messengers, on signals sent from your sensory organs. And from these signals, from these electrical impulses traveling along nerves, your brain constructs the entire rich, vivid, detailed world you experience. Think about vision for a moment. Light enters your eyes, strikes your retinas, and triggers chemical reactions in millions of photoreceptor cells. These cells convert light into electrical signals, which travel along the optic nerve to the back of your brain, to the visual cortex. And there, through processes we're still working to fully understand, these electrical signals become the experience of seeing, of colors and shapes and movement and depth. Your brain is taking raw data, electromagnetic radiation of various wavelengths, and turning it into the subjective experience of a sunset, a face, a tree, a word on a page. But it doesn't stop there. Your brain does an enormous amount of processing and interpretation. It fills in the blind spot where your optic nerve enters your eye, seamlessly patching over the gap so you never notice it's there. It stabilizes the image, even though your eyes are constantly moving. It enhances edges and contrasts to make objects stand out more clearly. It uses context and expectation to speed up recognition. You see what you expect to see, what makes sense to see, not always what's actually there. Your perception of reality is a construction, a simulation your brain creates based on incomplete and ambiguous sensory data. The same is true for all your senses. Sound is just air pressure waves, vibrations that strike your eardrums and are converted into electrical signals. Your brain turns these signals into the experience of music, of speech, of the rustle of leaves, or the roar of thunder. Touch is pressure and temperature and texture detected by receptors in your skin, signals sent up your spinal cord and into your brain, where they become the feeling of softness or roughness, heat or cold, pleasure or pain. Taste and smell are chemical molecules binding to receptors, triggering cascades that eventually result in the experience of sweetness or bitterness, the scent of roses or coffee or rain. All of it, every sensation you've ever had, is your brain's interpretation of signals. You've never directly experienced the outside world. You've only ever experienced your brain's simulation of it, your brain's best guess about what's out there based on the limited information coming in through your senses. You live inside a model of reality, not reality itself. And most of the time, the model is good enough. It's accurate enough to let you navigate the world, to survive, to thrive. But it's still a model, still a construction, still something your brain is actively creating, moment by moment. This means that your experience of reality is deeply personal, unique to you. No one else has exactly the same brain, exactly the same sensory receptors, exactly the same history of experiences that shape how you perceive and interpret. The red you see might not be quite the same as the red someone else sees. The way music makes you feel is shaped by your particular emotional associations, your memories. The world as you experience it is yours alone, a private universe generated by the soft galaxy in your skull. And your brain is remarkably creative in this process of perception. It doesn't just passively receive signals, it actively predicts what should be there, what's likely to be there, based on past experience. When you're having a conversation and someone's mouth is momentarily hidden, your brain fills in the missing sounds based on context. When you read text with missing letters, you often don't notice because your brain automatically completes the words. When you hear a song you know well, your brain is already anticipating the next notes, and if they don't come as expected, you feel surprise or dissonance. This predictive nature of perception is powerful and usually helpful, but it can also lead you astray. Optical illusions work by exploiting the assumptions your brain makes. The famous rubber hand illusion, where you can be made to feel that a rubber hand is your own hand, shows how malleable your sense of your body is. Phantom limb sensations, where people who've lost a limb still feel it, demonstrate that your experience of your body is a construction too, a map your brain maintains that doesn't always match physical reality. Pain, too, is constructed by your brain. This isn't to say pain isn't real or isn't important, but the intensity of pain you feel isn't just determined by the amount of tissue damage. It's also influenced by your attention, your emotional state, your expectations, your past experiences with pain. This is why distraction can sometimes reduce pain, why pain can feel worse when you're stressed or anxious, why placebos can genuinely reduce pain even though they have no active ingredients. Your brain is generating the experience of pain, and it can turn that experience up or down based on context and belief. All of this is happening without your conscious awareness. You don't experience the construction process. You just experience the end result, the smooth, seamless simulation your brain presents to your consciousness. It's like watching a movie without seeing the cameras, the lighting, the editing. You just see the finished film and take it as reality. As you rest now, you might become more aware of your sensory experience. The feeling of the surface beneath you, the temperature of the air on your skin, any sounds in your environment, the darkness or light beyond your closed eyelids. Know that all of this is being actively created by your brain. Your brain is receiving signals, interpreting them, constructing a coherent experience of this moment. And it's doing this ceaselessly, every waking moment, creating your reality from raw data, painting your world from electrical impulses. The fact that it works at all, that this jumble of signals becomes a rich, meaningful experience, is one of the deepest mysteries and most profound miracles of consciousness. Even now, as you drift towards sleep, your brain is dancing. This might surprise you. You might think that sleep is a time of shutdown, of rest, of nothing happening. But the truth is far more fascinating. Your brain never truly sleeps. It just changes its dance. When you close your eyes at night and begin to drift away from waking consciousness, your brain doesn't power down like a computer. Instead, it shifts into different modes, different patterns of activity that are just as important as anything it does while you're awake. In fact, in some ways, your sleeping brain is even busier than your waking one. Sleep happens in cycles. Gentle waves that carry you from light sleep down into deeper waters, then back up to the surface before diving again. Each cycle lasts about 90 minutes, and you experience 4 to 6 of these cycles each night. And through each cycle, your brain waves. The electrical patterns that sweep across your cortex change and shift like music changing tempo and tone. In light sleep, your brain produces theta waves, slow and rhythmic, like gentle ocean swells. Your muscles relax. Your heart rate slows. You're drifting in the shallows, not quite here, not quite gone. Then you sink deeper into slow wave sleep, where delta waves take over. These are the big, slow waves of true rest, rolling through your brain like distant thunder, like the breath of some vast, sleeping creature. This is when your body does most of its physical restoration, when growth hormones are released, when your immune system gets a boost. But then something wonderful happens. After cycling through these deep waters, you rise back toward the surface, but you don't wake up. Instead, you enter REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and this is where your brain begins to dance in earnest. During REM sleep, your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake. Your eyes flutter and dart beneath your closed lids. Your brain waves quicken, resembling the patterns of waking consciousness. And you dream. Oh, how you dream. Your brain is creating entire worlds, playing out scenarios, processing emotions, working through problems. Some researchers call dreaming a form of overnight therapy, where your emotional experiences are integrated and understood and filed away. But there's more happening than just dreams. While you sleep, your brain is consolidating memories, deciding what to keep and what to let fade. The experiences of your day are being replayed over and over, strengthened and woven into the larger tapestry of who you are. That new skill you're learning, those facts you studied, that conversation you had, all of it is being processed and sorted and stored. Sleep is when learning becomes long-term knowledge, when short-term memories become part of your permanent self. The process is fascinating in its complexity. During slow wave sleep, that deep, dreamless sleep with the big delta waves, your hippocampus replays the day's experiences to your cortex. It's like watching a highlights reel at high speed, hundreds of times faster than the original experiences. These replays strengthen the connections between neurons that encode the memory, making those pathways more robust, more permanent. The memory is being transferred from temporary storage in the hippocampus to longer-term storage distributed across the cortex. This is consolidation, and it's one of the most important functions of sleep. During REM sleep, something different happens. Here, your brain seems to be integrating new information with old, making connections, finding patterns, extracting meaning. This is when insights can occur, when problems that seemed intractable during the day suddenly have solutions. Your sleeping brain is more creative in some ways than your waking brain, because it's free from the constraints of logic and reality, free to make unusual connections and see new possibilities. Many artists and scientists have reported getting breakthrough ideas in dreams or upon waking. And there's something else, something discovered only recently that fills me with quiet awe. Your brain has a cleaning system called the glymphatic system, and it works primarily while you sleep. During the day, as your brain cells fire and work and keep you alive and thinking, they produce waste products. Metabolic debris, proteins that can build up and, if left unchecked, cause problems. These include beta amyloid and tau proteins, which are associated with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia when they accumulate. While you sleep, the cells in your brain, particularly the glial cells that support and protect neurons, actually shrink slightly. They reduce their volume by about 60%. This creates more space between cells, widening the gaps. And through these spaces, cerebrospinal fluid flows, washing through your brain tissue like a tide, carrying away the waste products that have accumulated during the day. The fluid collects the debris and carries it out through the brain's lymphatic vessels, ultimately removing it from your system. This is why sleep deprivation is so damaging. When you don't sleep enough, this cleaning doesn't happen adequately. Waste builds up, cognitive function suffers, mood deteriorates. Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to increased risk of dementia, depression, cardiovascular disease, and many other health problems. Sleep is not optional. It's not a luxury. It's essential maintenance, as necessary as food or water. So sleep is not an absence. It's not a void. It's not lost time or wasted hours. It's a different kind of presence, a different kind of work. Your brain is tending to itself, taking care of business that can't be done while you're busy being awake. It's like a theater after the show ends. The audience has gone home, the lights are dim, but the crew comes out to sweep the aisles, repair the seats, set up for tomorrow's performance. Your sleeping brain is both the theater and the crew, cleaning itself, maintaining itself, making sure everything is ready for the moment you open your eyes again. There's something deeply comforting in this, isn't there? The knowledge that even in sleep, even in apparent unconsciousness, you are being cared for. Your brain is looking after you, working through the day's puzzles, sorting your memories, cleaning house, getting you ready for whatever tomorrow brings. You can trust this process. You can let go, knowing that sleep is not a loss of time, but a different kind of work, essential and restorative and beautiful in its own right. Sleep is your brain's gift to itself and to you. As you rest now, perhaps already feeling the pull of sleep, you can imagine your brain beginning its nighttime dance. The waves slowing from the quick beta rhythms of waking thought, down to the gentle alpha waves of relaxation, then deeper still into theta and delta. The cleaning beginning, fluid flowing through tissue, the memories being gently tucked away into their proper places, strengthened and organized. Dreams beginning to form, strange and symbolic, processing the emotional residue of the day. You are being taken care of. You are safe. And your brain, that soft galaxy, is doing exactly what it needs to do. You don't have to manage it or control it or help it along. Just let it happen. Just let yourself be carried on these gentle waves, knowing that the dance goes on. And it's all for you. Your brain right now is different than it was this morning. This isn't poetry or metaphor. It's literal fact. From the moment you woke up today until this very second, your brain has been changing, reshaping itself, rewiring its connections based on everything you've experienced. This is neuroplasticity, and it means you are never finished becoming who you are. For a long time, scientists believed that the brain you were born with, perhaps with some development through childhood, was essentially the brain you were stuck with. That after a certain age, the structure was set, fixed, unchangeable. But we now know this is beautifully, wonderfully wrong. Your brain is not a static thing. It's a living, growing, adapting system that responds to your experiences, your thoughts, your actions. It is plastic in the truest sense, able to be molded and shaped and reformed throughout your entire life. Every time you learn something new, your brain changes physically. New connections form between neurons. Existing connections grow stronger or weaker based on how often they're used. The phrase neurons that fire together, wire together, has become a kind of mantra in neuroscience, and it's true. When you practice something, whether it's playing piano or speaking a new language or simply thinking kind thoughts, you're strengthening specific neural pathways. You're making it easier for those neurons to communicate, carving grooves in your brain that make that activity more natural, more automatic. With each repetition, with each practice session, the pathway becomes more established, more efficient, requiring less conscious effort. What once took all your concentration eventually becomes effortless, automatic, part of who you are. There's a famous study of London taxi drivers that illustrates this perfectly. To become a licensed taxi driver in London, you must pass an incredibly difficult test called the knowledge. You have to memorize 25,000 streets, thousands of landmarks, countless routes. It takes years of study. When researchers scanned the brains of these taxi drivers, they found something remarkable. The hippocampus, a region involved in spatial memory and navigation, was significantly larger in taxi drivers than in people who didn't drive taxis. And the longer someone had been driving a taxi, the larger their hippocampus became. The brain had literally grown in response to the demands placed upon it. This physical growth, this actual enlargement of brain tissue, happens in adults, proving that our brains remain capable of structural change throughout our lives. This happens in musicians too. The areas of the brain responsible for finger movement are larger in people who play string instruments. The auditory cortex is enhanced in those who train their ears. Jugglers show increased grey matter in areas related to visual motion processing. Over and over, we see the same pattern. What you do changes who you are, not just mentally or emotionally, but physically, structurally, in the very meat of your brain. And it's not just about learning skills. Your thoughts themselves reshape your brain. If you spend time each day practicing gratitude, the neural pathways associated with noticing good things, with feeling thankful, those pathways strengthen. If you practice mindfulness, the regions of your brain involved in attention and emotional regulation actually grow denser. If you rehearse anxiety, if you return again and again to worried thoughts, those pathways strengthen too. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's simply how the system works. Your brain becomes what you practice. This means you have agency. You have choice in how you shape your mind over time, even if you can't control every thought that arises in any given moment. The beautiful thing, the hopeful thing, is that neuroplasticity works throughout your entire life. Yes, children's brains are especially plastic, especially quick to change and adapt. But adult brains remain capable of remarkable change. Even elderly brains continue to form new connections, to learn, to grow. You are never too old to change, never too set in your ways. The brain you have today is not the brain you must have tomorrow. Every day is an opportunity for your brain to become something slightly different, to strengthen new pathways, to learn new patterns of thinking and being. This is true even in cases of injury. When one part of the brain is damaged, other parts can sometimes take over its functions. Stroke patients can regain speech. People born blind develop enhanced auditory processing in what would normally be visual cortex. The brain roots around damage, finds new paths, adapts. It is resilient in ways we're still discovering. So as you lie here, breathing softly, know this: you are not a finished product. Every experience you have, every thought you think, every action you take is sculpting your brain in subtle ways. You are always becoming. And if there are things about yourself you wish were different, patterns of thought or behavior that don't serve you, you have the power to change them. Not easily, perhaps, not overnight, but genuinely, truly, physically. You can build new pathways, strengthen new connections, become someone slightly different than who you were yesterday. This is not about perfection. It's about possibility. The possibility that we are not trapped by our past, by our habits, by the brain we happened to have yesterday. We are living, growing, changing systems. And that change is happening right now, even as you rest. Even as you listen to these words, patterns are shifting. Connections are forming. You are becoming the next version of yourself. How beautiful is that? How full of hope. You carry within you the seeds of your own transformation, and they're sprouting even now in the soft darkness behind your eyes. Though you're lying still, your brain is burning like a quiet star. It's a strange thought, but it's true. Right now, in this moment of rest, your brain is consuming about 20% of all the energy your body produces. 20%. And your brain only makes up about 2% of your body's weight. This means your brain is extraordinarily expensive, energetically speaking. It's a hungry organ, constantly demanding fuel even when you feel like you're doing nothing at all. That fuel is primarily glucose, a simple sugar that comes from the food you eat. Your brain burns through about 120 grams of glucose every day. That's roughly 420 calories just for your brain alone. Every thought, every memory, every sensation, every moment of awareness costs energy. Being conscious, being you, is metabolically expensive work. Think about what this means for a moment. Your brain, this 3-pound organ, uses more energy pound for pound than any other tissue in your body. More than your muscles when they're working hard. More than your heart as it beats ceaselessly. More than your liver with all its complex chemical processing. The brain is the most metabolically active organ you have, and it demands a constant supply of fuel. The glucose comes to your brain through an intricate network of blood vessels. If you could see them all laid out, the blood vessels in your brain would stretch for about 400 miles. 400 miles of tiny tubes, bringing oxygen and glucose to every corner, every fold, every deep structure. Your brain receives about 15% of your heart's total blood output, even though it's such a small part of your total body mass. With every heartbeat, fresh blood is pumped up through your carotid arteries, branching and branching again into smaller and smaller vessels until they become capillaries so thin that blood cells must pass through single file. And here's something remarkable. Your brain cannot store energy the way your muscles can. Muscles can hold onto glycogen, a stored form of glucose, to use when they need it. But your brain has almost no energy reserves. It depends on a constant, uninterrupted supply of glucose from your bloodstream. If that supply is cut off, even for a few seconds, you lose consciousness. After 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen and glucose, brain cells begin to die. This is why stroke and cardiac arrest are so dangerous. The brain cannot wait. It cannot pause. It must be fed constantly, moment by moment, or it begins to fail. This is why thinking hard actually makes you tired. It's not just a feeling. Your brain is genuinely using up resources. When you're solving difficult problems, learning new information, or concentrating intensely, your brain's energy consumption increases even more. Certain regions become more active, drawing more blood flow, burning more glucose. Those neurons firing, those synapses connecting, all of that requires fuel. Mental exhaustion is real exhaustion. Your brain has been working, and work costs energy. But here's what's fascinating. Even when you're not thinking about anything in particular, even when you're resting or daydreaming or letting your mind wander, your brain is still burning nearly as much energy as when you're focused on a task. In fact, researchers have discovered that there's a network in your brain called the default mode network that becomes especially active when you're not focused on the outside world. When you're spacing out, remembering the past, imagining the future, thinking about yourself or others, this network lights up and gets to work. The default mode network is like your brain's screensaver, except it's not saving energy at all. It's spending energy, lots of it, doing important work that happens beneath your awareness. It's consolidating memories. It's making sense of your experiences. It's planning and simulating and trying to understand the social world around you. This is why moments of rest, of apparent non-doing, can suddenly produce insights. Your brain has been working on problems in the background, and when you stop trying so hard, the answer bubbles up. Scientists estimate that about 60 to 80% of the brain's energy is used for this baseline activity, this constant hum of neurons maintaining their readiness to fire. Even when nothing in particular seems to be happening, your neurons are maintaining their electrical potential, keeping their channels open, staying ready. It's like keeping a car engine idling. It uses fuel even though you're not going anywhere, because the engine needs to stay warm, stay ready to move at a moment's notice. The remaining 20 to 40% of energy is used for actual signaling, the moments when neurons fire and communicate with each other. This is the energy of thoughts, of sensations, of movements. But the majority of your brain's energy budget goes to simply maintaining the possibility of thought, keeping the lights on, so to speak, even when you're not using them. This background activity, this constant energy expenditure, is part of what makes your brain so remarkable. It's always on, always processing, always trying to make sense of things. Even your dreams, those strange nocturnal movies, cost energy to produce. Your brain is doing something every moment of your life, from the moment you're born until the moment you die. It never clocks out, never takes a day off. And this creates an interesting paradox. Rest is essential for your brain, but rest doesn't mean your brain stops working. It just works differently. When you sleep, when you relax, when you let your mind wander, your brain shifts its energy to different tasks. Maintenance, consolidation, creative connections. The kind of work that can't happen when you're actively focused on something specific. During sleep, while your overall brain activity decreases slightly, certain processes actually ramp up. The glymphatic system, which we talked about earlier, becomes more active, using energy to pump fluid through your brain tissue and wash away waste. Memory consolidation, the process of transferring information from short-term to long-term storage, is energy-intensive work that happens primarily during sleep. Your brain is literally rewiring itself, strengthening some connections and weakening others, and this rewiring requires fuel. There's also something called synaptic homeostasis. Throughout the day, as you learn and experience things, synapses, those connection points between neurons, tend to get stronger and stronger. If this continued unchecked, your synapses would become saturated, unable to encode new information efficiently. During sleep, your brain engages in a kind of renormalization, scaling down synaptic strengths across the board. It's like resetting the system, making room for new learning tomorrow. This process, too, costs energy. The brain's hunger for energy is so intense that it has priority access to glucose. Even when you're fasting or haven't eaten in a while, your body will work to maintain blood sugar levels specifically to keep your brain functioning. Your liver will break down stored glycogen or even create glucose from proteins and fats to make sure your brain gets what it needs. The brain cannot be allowed to run out of fuel. It's too important, too vital to your survival. And there are consequences when the brain doesn't get enough energy. Low blood sugar can make you feel irritable, confused, shaky. Your thoughts become sluggish. Your mood drops. This is your brain struggling to function with insufficient fuel. Similarly, dehydration affects brain function because water is essential for all the biochemical reactions that neurons depend on. Even mild dehydration can impair concentration, memory, and mood. This is why it's so important to build rest into your life. Not because your brain needs to shut down, but because it needs time to do its background work, time to process, time to integrate, time to make the connections that lead to understanding and creativity and growth. Our culture often treats rest as laziness, as wasted time. But your brain knows better. Your brain is spending precious energy even when you're lying still, and that energy is being spent on keeping you healthy, whole, and sane. So as you rest right now, know that you're not being unproductive. You're not wasting time. Your brain is quietly burning its fuel, tending to 1,000 invisible tasks, making sure everything is balanced and organized and ready. The quietness on the outside doesn't reflect the activity on the inside. You are a quiet star, burning steadily, doing the essential work of being alive and aware. Imagine, if you can, the gentle fire happening inside your skull right now. Millions of glucose molecules being broken down, their energy being released in tiny controlled bursts. ATP, the energy currency of cells being produced and spent in an endless cycle. Electrons flowing through molecular machinery, creating the electrical potential that neurons use to signal. It's all chemistry, all physics, all biology, working together in a symphony of energy transformation. And that work deserves rest, deserves softness, deserves these moments where you're not trying to accomplish anything except being here, breathing, existing. Your brain is taking care of you. Let it. Trust it. Feed it with rest and food and water and patience, and it will keep burning, keep working, keep being the miraculous thing that makes you you. There's a kind of peace in knowing this, that you don't have to make your brain work. It's working already. It's been working since before you were born, since you were just a tiny cluster of cells in the womb, and it will keep working until the very end. You can relax, you can let go. The fire is tended, the star is burning, and you are simply here, held by your own biology, by the endless patient work of billions of cells, all of them contributing their small spark to the larger flame of consciousness. Now let's turn our attention to something that colors every moment of your life, something so fundamental that you might hardly notice it, except when it becomes intense. Your emotions, the feelings that flow through you, sometimes like gentle currents, sometimes like storms. These too are created by your brain, by specific networks and structures working together to give you the experience of joy, sadness, fear, anger, love, disgust, surprise, and countless subtle variations and combinations of these basic themes. Deep inside your brain, beneath the wrinkled cortex where much of your thinking happens, there's a collection of structures often called the limbic system. This term is a bit outdated now, as neuroscientists have learned that emotional processing is more distributed than once thought, but it's still useful for understanding some key players in emotional experience. The amygdala, which we've mentioned before, is perhaps the most famous. This small almond-shaped structure, you actually have two of them, one on each side, is crucial for processing emotions, especially fear and anxiety. When you encounter something threatening, real or perceived, your amygdala responds within milliseconds. It's faster than your conscious thought, faster than your reasoning. This is by design. In situations of danger, you don't have time to carefully analyze and decide. You need to react immediately. Your amygdala triggers the fight or flight response, flooding your system with stress hormones, increasing your heart rate, sharpening your senses, preparing your body to run or fight. This response has kept humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years. It's primitive, powerful, and absolutely essential. But the amygdala doesn't just do fear. It's involved in processing all emotionally salient stimuli, anything that matters to you, anything that's important or surprising or intense. It helps tag memories with emotional significance, which is why emotional memories are so strong, so vivid, so hard to forget. When something frightening or wonderful happens, your amygdala makes sure your brain pays attention, makes sure that experience gets encoded deeply so you'll remember it and can learn from it. The hippocampus, which we've discussed in relation to memory, works closely with the amygdala. Together, they create emotional memories, memories that have both factual content and emotional coloring. When you remember a happy day from your childhood, you're recalling both the facts of what happened and the feeling of how it felt. The hippocampus provides the context and details, the where and when and what. The amygdala provides the emotional tone, the how it felt, the significance. There's another structure worth mentioning, the anterior cingulate cortex, which sits in the middle of your brain, above the corpus callosum. This region is involved in regulating emotions, in managing conflict, in detecting errors and adjusting behavior. When you're trying to regulate a strong emotion, trying to stay calm when you're angry, or trying not to cry when you're sad, your anterior cingulate cortex is part of what makes that possible. It's a bridge between emotional and cognitive processing, between feeling and thinking. The insula, folded deep inside your brain, is crucial for interoception, for being aware of your body's internal states. It processes signals from your organs, your gut, your heart, your lungs. It creates the feeling of your body, the sense of being embodied. And this is more connected to emotion than you might think. Many emotions have strong bodily components. Anxiety is felt in your chest, in your stomach. Joy is felt as lightness, as energy. Sadness is felt as heaviness, as fatigue. Your insula is part of how these physical sensations become emotional experiences. And the prefrontal cortex, that executive region behind your forehead, plays a huge role in emotional regulation. It can dampen the amygdala's response, can apply the brakes when emotions threaten to overwhelm. It can reframe situations, can talk you down from panic, can help you see things from different perspectives. The connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala is crucial for emotional health. When this connection is strong, you're better able to regulate your emotions, to respond rather than react. When it's weak or disrupted, emotions can feel overwhelming, hard to control. But emotions aren't just generated by these few structures. They involve widespread networks throughout your brain. Your cortex interprets and gives meaning to your emotional experiences. Your brainstem and hypothalamus initiate many of the bodily responses associated with emotions. Your motor cortex prepares your body for action, tensing muscles or relaxing them depending on the emotion. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and oxytocin flow through your brain, modulating your emotional state, making you feel more content or more anxious, more connected or more withdrawn. Emotions are complex, multi-layered phenomena. They have a feeling component, the subjective experience of the emotion. They have a bodily component, the physical sensations and physiological changes. They have a cognitive component, the thoughts and interpretations that go along with the feeling. They have a behavioral component, the actions and expressions that result from the emotion. And they have a motivational component, the way emotions drive you toward or away from things. Your emotions exist for a reason. They're not just random experiences. They're information. They're signals from your brain about what matters, what's working, what needs attention. Fear tells you something might be dangerous. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Sadness tells you something has been lost. Joy tells you something is good, worth seeking more of. Disgust protects you from contamination. Surprise tells you something unexpected has happened. Pay attention and update your models. Even painful emotions, the ones we'd prefer not to feel, carry valuable information if we can listen to them. But emotions can also mislead. Your amygdala can sound the alarm when there's no real danger, triggering anxiety in safe situations. Your emotional responses are shaped by past experiences, and sometimes past pain makes you fearful of things that are no longer threatening. Sometimes emotions are disproportionate to the current situation because they're echoing old wounds, old patterns. Learning to recognize this, to distinguish between emotions that are giving you accurate information about now versus emotions that are responding to. Then, this is part of emotional maturity, part of the work of being human. Your emotional life is also deeply social. Humans are social creatures, and our brains have evolved to be exquisitely sensitive to other people's emotions. You have mirror neurons that fire both when you perform an action and when you see someone else perform that action. This is part of how you understand others, how you empathize. When you see someone smile, mirror neurons in your brain activate the same patterns as when you smile, giving you a felt sense of their happiness. When you see someone in pain, you feel an echo of that pain. This capacity for empathy, for feeling with others, is built into your neural architecture. Oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone or bonding hormone, plays a crucial role in social connection. It's released during physical affection, during sex, during childbirth and nursing, during moments of trust and intimacy. It makes you feel closer to others, more trusting, more generous. It strengthens social bonds, helps create the glue that holds relationships and communities together. Your brain is literally wired for connection, chemically rewarded for forming bonds with others. And emotions are contagious. You've probably noticed this. When you're around someone who's anxious, you start to feel anxious too. When someone's laughing, you want to laugh. This happens through multiple mechanisms. Through facial mimicry, you unconsciously copy others' expressions. And because expressions feed back to influence emotions, this makes you feel a bit of what they're feeling. Through mirror neurons, through shared physiological states. Your nervous system is not entirely separate from others' nervous systems. You affect each other, constantly, often without realizing it. As you lie here now, you might notice emotions arising and passing. Maybe contentment, maybe peacefulness, maybe slight anxiety about falling asleep or about tomorrow, maybe gratitude, maybe boredom. Whatever you're feeling, it's your brain doing its work, processing, signaling, trying to help you navigate your experience. You don't have to judge your emotions or push them away. They're just weather passing through, clouds in your inner sky. They arise based on conditions, they linger for a while, and they pass. Beneath them, the awareness that notices them remains, like the sky itself remains constant, even as clouds come and go. Your brain is remarkably good at generating emotions, but it's also capable of learning to work with them skillfully. Practices like mindfulness, cognitive restructuring, and somatic awareness can help you develop a different relationship with your emotions. Not suppressing them or indulging them, but observing them, understanding them, allowing them to flow through without being overwhelmed or controlled by them. This is neuroplasticity at work again. You can actually change how your brain processes emotions through practice, strengthening the prefrontal areas that regulate emotion, calming the amygdala's reactivity, becoming more aware of bodily sensations through the insula. The goal is not to become emotionless, not to achieve some kind of perfect calm or constant happiness. Emotions are part of being alive, part of being human. They make life rich and meaningful. The goal is to have emotions without them having you, to feel fully without being swept away, to be able to regulate when needed while still remaining open to the full spectrum of human feeling. This is a lifelong practice, and your brain is your partner in this work, capable of remarkable growth and change if you approach it with patience and compassion. Your memories are not recordings. This might be unsettling to hear, but it's important. When you remember something, you're not playing back a video file or pulling out a photograph from storage. Memory doesn't work that way. Instead, you're reconstructing the past, piecing it together from fragments, and that reconstruction changes slightly every single time. Your memories are not facts. They're dreams you've agreed to believe. Here's how it actually works. When you experience something, the encoding of that experience doesn't happen in one single place in your brain. Different aspects of the memory are stored in different regions. The visual details might be stored in your visual cortex, the sounds in your auditory cortex, the emotions in your amygdala, the context and location in your hippocampus, the meaning and associations in various parts of your temporal lobes. The memory is distributed, scattered across your brain like a constellation of stars, each point of light holding a different fragment of the whole experience. When you later recall that memory, your brain has to gather all these pieces back together. It has to reach out to all these different regions, retrieve the fragments, and weave them back into something coherent. This process is called reconsolidation, and it's where things get interesting. Because every time you remember something, you're not just retrieving it, you're recreating it. And in that recreation, details can change. Things can be added or subtracted. The memory can be influenced by your current mood, your current beliefs, your current context, even by other memories that seem related. This is why eyewitness testimony, once considered the gold standard in courtrooms, is now understood to be remarkably unreliable. People can be absolutely certain about details that are completely wrong. They're not lying. They genuinely remember things that didn't happen, or remember them differently than they occurred. Their brains have reconstructed the memory in a particular way, and that reconstruction feels just as real, just as vivid as the original experience. Maybe more so, because it's been refined and reinforced through multiple retellings. You've probably experienced this yourself. Maybe you've had a conversation with an old friend about a shared experience, only to discover that you remember it quite differently. You might both be certain about your version. You might both have clear, detailed memories that contradict each other. And in a way, you're both right, because you each have a different reconstruction of the same event. Your brains have taken the raw material of what happened and shaped it according to your own perspectives, your own emotional responses, your own subsequent experiences and knowledge. The memory you carry is colored by who you are now, not just who you were then. The hippocampus plays a crucial role in this process of memory formation and retrieval. Think of it as your brain's librarian, or perhaps better, as a kind of index. It doesn't store the memories themselves, but it holds the map that tells your brain where all the pieces are stored and how they fit together. When the hippocampus is damaged, people lose the ability to form new long-term memories. They can remember the past, everything that was already consolidated before the damage occurred, but the present never becomes memory. It's like living in a permanent now, where everything that just happened a few minutes ago vanishes like morning mist, leaving no trace. Every conversation is new. Every face is seen for the first time, even if you've met them dozens of times since the injury. But even with a healthy hippocampus, memory is selective and creative. Your brain doesn't record everything. It can't. The amount of sensory information streaming in at every moment is far too vast. Instead, your brain selectively encodes what seems important, what captures your attention, what has emotional significance. The rest is filtered out, never making it into long-term storage at all. This is why you can drive home on a familiar route and arrive without remembering the journey. Your brain deemed it unimportant, routine, not worth encoding in detail. Emotional memories tend to be strongest. The amygdala, your brain's emotional processing center, tags certain experiences as important, and those tagged memories get priority treatment. They're encoded more strongly, with more detail, more vividness. This is an evolutionary adaptation. Remembering dangerous situations, threatening encounters, moments of intense joy or connection, all of this has survival value. Your brain prioritizes emotional memories because they teach you what to seek and what to avoid. This is why you can remember emotionally charged events, both wonderful and terrible, with such vividness. The birth of a child, the death of a loved one, your wedding day, a car accident, a moment of profound humiliation or triumph. These memories feel more real, more detailed than ordinary memories. And in a sense, they are. Your brain devoted more resources to encoding them, created more associations, embedded them more deeply in your neural networks. Yet even these vivid memories aren't perfect recordings. They're still reconstructions, still susceptible to change and distortion. There's a phenomenon called flashbulb memories, where people have incredibly detailed recollections of where they were and what they were doing when something historically significant happened. People who lived through it can tell you exactly where they were when they heard about the assassination of President Kennedy, or the September 11th attacks, or the explosion of the Challenger space shuttle. They can describe the room they were in, who told them, what they were wearing, what the weather was like. They feel certain about these details. But research shows that flashbulb memories are just as prone to error as any other kind of memory. When researchers interview people immediately after a major event, and then again months or years later, the details change. People remember things differently, but their confidence doesn't waver. They're sure they remember correctly, even when the facts show otherwise. The emotional intensity of the event creates a sense of clarity, of vividness, that feels like accuracy, but isn't necessarily so. And here's something that might seem strange, but is absolutely true. Every time you recall a memory, you make it a little bit different. The act of remembering actually changes the memory. When you retrieve a memory, it becomes temporarily unstable, malleable. It's been taken apart to be examined, and when it's put back together, it's slightly reshaped by the present moment, by who you are now versus who you were then. In a sense, your memories are always being updated, always being rewritten by your current self, your current understanding, your current emotions. This even extends to creating entirely false memories. Researchers have shown that it's possible to implant memories of events that never happened, simply through suggestion, imagination, and repeated exposure to the false narrative. People can come to remember, with full sensory detail and emotional conviction, things that are completely fabricated. In one famous study, researchers convinced people that they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, even though this had never occurred. The participants didn't just agree that it might have happened. They developed detailed memories of it. They could describe the mall, the feeling of being lost, who found them. All of it false, all of it created by their brains to fill in a suggested narrative. This isn't a flaw in certain people. It's not a sign of weak mind or gullibility. It's a feature of how memory works in all of us. Our brains are prediction machines, constantly filling in gaps, making assumptions, creating coherent narratives from incomplete information. This works most of the time. It allows us to navigate the world efficiently, to make quick decisions based on past experience. But it also means our memories are vulnerable to suggestion, to imagination, to the stories we tell ourselves about our past. And forgetting, which often feels like a failure, is actually essential. Your brain cannot keep everything. The amount of information you encounter in a single day is enormous. If your brain tried to store all of it in detailed long-term memory, you would be overwhelmed, paralyzed by the weight of every single detail you've ever experienced. So forgetting is a kind of pruning, a way of keeping what matters and letting go of what doesn't. It's not just passive decay, the fading of unused memories. Some researchers suggest that forgetting is an active process, that your brain is choosing what to release, making room for new information, new experiences, new growth. There are different types of memory, and they work in different ways. There's episodic memory, the memory of events and experiences, the stories of your life. There's semantic memory, the memory of facts and concepts, things you know but don't remember learning. There's procedural memory, the memory of how to do things, like riding a bike or typing on a keyboard. This last type, procedural memory, is particularly interesting because it doesn't require conscious recall. Your body remembers. Your muscles remember. You can ride a bike without thinking about it, even if you haven't done it in years. This is a different memory system, one that's more automatic, more deeply embedded in your motor cortex and cerebellum. Working memory is another type, the brief holding space where you keep information you're currently using. It's like your brain's scratch pad. When you're doing mental arithmetic, or following directions, or remembering a phone number just long enough to dial it, you're using working memory. This system has a very limited capacity, usually around 7 items, give or take, and it's fragile. Distract someone, and the contents of working memory vanish. This is why you can walk into a room and forget why you came there. Your working memory was interrupted by the act of moving through space, and the intention you were holding disappeared. These different memory systems can work together or separately. You can have episodic memories without semantic content, or semantic knowledge without episodic context. People with amnesia might lose the ability to form new episodic memories, but retain the ability to learn new skills, new procedures. They can't remember doing the training, but their performance improves. The body learns even when the conscious mind doesn't remember. There's something both unsettling and freeing about all this. Unsettling because it means we can't fully trust our own memories. The past, as we remember it, is always a little bit fiction, a little bit story. The definitive account of what happened doesn't exist, not even in our own minds. But it's also freeing, because it means we're not prisoners of our past. Those painful memories, while real and valid in terms of the emotions they carry, are also just reconstructions. They can change. They can be reframed. They can be seen from new angles, with new understanding, with compassion for the person you were and the person you've become. Therapy often works by helping people remember difficult experiences in new ways, adding context, exploring alternative interpretations, reducing emotional charge, separating the facts of what happened from the meanings we've assigned to them. In doing this, the memory itself changes. Not the event that happened in the past, but the memory, the reconstruction, the story we carry. And in changing the story, we can change its power over us, change how it shapes our present and our future. As you rest here, breathing slowly, you might think about your own memories, the ones you treasure and the ones you wish you could forget. Know that they're not fixed things carved in stone. They're living, changing parts of you, being reshaped every time you remember them, every time you think about them, every time you tell the story. You are the author of your own past in a very literal sense, constantly revising the text, and that gives you more power than you might think. The story you tell yourself about who you are and where you've been, that story can change. And in changing the story, you change yourself. Your memories are not your master. They're your material, raw and malleable, and you can shape them with every remembering, making them serve who you're becoming, rather than imprisoning you in who you were. This is not about denial or delusion. It's about recognizing the fluid, constructed nature of memory and using that understanding to find peace, to find healing, to find freedom from the tyranny of a past that exists only in the ever-shifting landscape of recollection. There is no single place in your brain where you live. This is one of the deepest mysteries of consciousness and one of the most beautiful. When neuroscientists look at the brain, searching for the place where you exist, the home of yourself, the seat of consciousness, they find something strange. They find activity everywhere, distributed patterns lighting up across vast networks, but no central headquarters, no throne room where the king of consciousness sits. No little person behind your eyes pulling levers and watching screens. You are not located anywhere. You are the activity itself. Consciousness seems to be what philosophers call an emergent property. It arises from the complex interaction of billions of neurons, but it's not located in any one of them. It's not even located in any particular group of them. It's like a murmuration of starlings, those thousands of birds moving together in flowing, shape-shifting patterns across the sky. The pattern exists, it's real, you can see it, you can point to it and say, there, that's a murmuration. But it's not in any single bird. It emerges from their collective behavior, from the simple rules each bird follows in response to its neighbors. Your consciousness is similar. It emerges from the collective activity of your neurons, from the patterns of their firing, from the symphonies they play together. But it doesn't live in any particular neuron or any particular place. Different regions of your brain contribute different things to your sense of self, to your experience of being you. The prefrontal cortex, that large area right behind your forehead, is involved in planning and decision-making, in imagining the future, in holding multiple ideas in mind at once. This is where your executive functions live, the ability to organize, to strategize, to inhibit impulses. Damage to the prefrontal cortex can change personality, can make people more impulsive, less able to plan ahead, less concerned with social norms. But they're still conscious. They're still someone. The temporal lobes on the sides of your brain hold memories. They're involved in processing sounds, in understanding language, in recognizing faces. The parietal lobes, toward the back and top, help you sense your body's position in space, help you navigate the world, help you understand spatial relationships. The insula, a region tucked deep inside, makes you aware of your internal bodily states. Your heartbeat, your breathing, the feeling of hunger or nausea or butterflies in your stomach. All of these regions and more work together to create the unified feeling of being you, of being someone with thoughts and feelings and sensations, and a body and a past and a future. There's a network called the default mode network that we've touched on before, and it seems particularly important for self-referential thinking, for the sense of self that persists across time. When you're thinking about yourself, remembering your past, imagining your future, considering what others might think of you, wondering about your place in the world, this network becomes active. It includes parts of the prefrontal cortex, parts of the temporal lobes, a structure called the posterior cingulate cortex. All of these regions talk to each other, creating a conversation about who you are. But this network is not the self itself. It's just one contributor to the overall pattern. One voice in the chorus. Some of the most fascinating and unsettling evidence for the distributed nature of consciousness comes from split-brain patients. These are people who, usually to treat severe epilepsy that didn't respond to other treatments, have had their corpus callosum cut. The corpus callosum is the thick bundle of about 200 million nerve fibers that connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain, allowing them to communicate and coordinate. When it's severed, the two hemispheres can no longer talk to each other directly. They become, in a sense, isolated from each other. What researchers found when they studied these patients is deeply strange. Each hemisphere seems to have its own awareness, its own preferences, its own responses. The left hemisphere, which controls the right side of the body and is usually dominant for language, can speak and describe what it perceives. It can answer questions, express opinions, tell stories. The right hemisphere, controlling the left side of the body, cannot speak in most people, but it can respond through gestures, through drawing, through pointing. And sometimes the two hemispheres want different things. In some experiments, the two hemispheres seem to disagree. The left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, might point to one object, while the patient verbally, using their left hemisphere, insists they want something else. One famous patient would sometimes find his left hand buttoning up his shirt while his right hand was trying to unbutton it. Another would reach for items with one hand while the other hand pushed them away. It's as if there are two separate conscious entities inhabiting the same skull, each with its own goals, its own awareness, unable to coordinate because the communication bridge between them has been cut. This raises profound questions. Before the surgery, were there always two consciousnesses that just happened to be in such constant communication that they felt like one? Or does severing the connection somehow create two where there was one? Are split-brain patients actually two people, or still one person with a very unusual condition? There's no clear answer, and perhaps the question itself is based on faulty assumptions about what consciousness is, about what it means to be a person. Maybe the unity of consciousness is always somewhat illusory, always a constructed sense of wholeness that papers over the multiplicity of processes happening beneath. You can even lose certain brain regions and still be fundamentally you. People have survived with significant portions of their brains damaged or removed. They change, certainly. They might lose certain abilities or memories. Their personality might shift. But the core sense of being someone, of having experiences, of existing, often remains. There's no single region you can point to and say, that's where you live, remove that, and you cease to exist. The self is more resilient and more distributed than that. It's a pattern that can maintain itself even when parts of the substrate are damaged, finding new pathways, reorganizing, adapting. This distributed nature of consciousness means that you're not a thing. You're a process. You're something your brain does, not something your brain has. Consciousness is the brain being aware, experiencing, thinking, feeling. It's the ongoing activity, the ceaseless conversation between billions of neurons, the patterns that form and dissolve and reform from moment to moment. You are a verb pretending to be a noun, a continuous becoming that feels from the inside like a stable being. Meditation traditions have been saying something similar for thousands of years. Buddhist teachings in particular emphasize the concept of anatta, or non-self. The idea that what we call the self is not a fixed, independent entity, but rather a collection of changing processes. Thoughts, sensations, emotions, perceptions, all of them arising and passing away, none of them permanent, none of them constituting a core unchanging you. Practices like mindfulness encourage you to observe your thoughts rather than identify with them, to notice that you are not your thoughts, but the space in which thoughts occur. The awareness that remains when everything else falls away. Neuroscience seems to be discovering something compatible. There is no permanent self, no unchanging essence at the core of who you are. There's just the ongoing flow of experience, the patterns of neural activity that give rise to thoughts and feelings and sensations. The sense of self, the feeling of being a continuous person with a past and a future, is something your brain constructs. It's a user interface, a simplified representation that helps you navigate the world. Beneath that interface is something far more complex, far more distributed, far more fluid. This can feel disorienting. If there's no central me, no little person sitting in a control room behind my eyes, then what am I? If consciousness is distributed across my brain with no single location, if the self is a process rather than a thing, then where do I begin and end? But this can also be liberating. It means you're not trapped in one small part of yourself. You're not limited to a single perspective, a single fixed identity. You're the whole system, vast and complex and constantly in motion. You're the conversation your brain is having with itself, and that conversation can change. New voices can join. Old voices can quiet down. The pattern that is you is flexible, adaptive, constantly in flux. As you rest here, in this quiet moment, you might notice something interesting. You're aware of your thoughts. You can watch them arise and pass away. You can observe your feelings, your bodily sensations, your mental chatter. You are the observer of your own mental activity. But here's the strange thing, the paradox at the heart of consciousness. The observer is also part of the system being observed. There's no separate watcher standing outside the process. The brain is watching itself, experiencing itself, being aware of its own awareness. It's recursive and circular, and somehow, miraculously, it gives rise to this feeling. The feeling of being you. You are not in your brain. You are what your brain does. You are the pattern of activity, the ongoing conversation, the emerging property of billions of neurons working together in intricate patterns. And that pattern right now is experiencing this moment, is hearing or reading these words, is perhaps feeling drowsy or curious or peaceful, is aware of being aware. The pattern is always changing, always becoming, and yet there's a continuity to it, a thread that makes you feel like the same person who woke up this morning, the same person who lived through yesterday and will live through tomorrow. You are both everything and nothing, everywhere in your brain and nowhere specifically. A process masquerading as a thing, a verb pretending to be a noun, a pattern of electricity and chemistry that has somehow become aware of itself. And in this paradox, in this beautiful impossibility, you exist, you experience, you are. And that is more than enough. That is everything. That is the miracle happening right now in this moment in the soft darkness of your skull, where billions of neurons fire together to create the universe you inhabit, the only universe you've ever known, the universe that is somehow mysteriously you. Your brain does not experience time the way clocks do. This is something you've probably felt without quite realizing it. Time seems to fly when you're having fun, when you're absorbed in something you love. It drags when you're bored, when you're waiting, when you're uncomfortable. A summer in childhood felt like an eternity, stretching out forever, full of endless days. But now years seem to slip by in a blink, each one faster than the last. Time, as you experience it, is not a steady tick-tock. It's fluid, subjective, constructed by your brain from moment to moment. The present moment, the now that you're experiencing right now, isn't actually instantaneous. This might sound strange, but bear with me. Your brain doesn't process reality in real time. It processes reality in windows, brief spans of time that it then presents to your consciousness as the present. These windows are about 80 milliseconds long. That's less than 1/10 of a second, barely noticeable, but it's not zero. It's not immediate. Everything you perceive as happening now actually happened a tiny fraction of a second ago. Your brain needs time to gather sensory information from your eyes, your ears, your skin, to process it, to integrate it, and to present it to your consciousness as a unified experience. You are always living slightly in the past, experiencing a carefully edited version of reality that your brain has prepared for you. But your brain works very hard to hide this delay, to make everything feel seamless and immediate. It creates the illusion of continuous flowing time. It papers over the gaps, smooths out the edges, makes everything feel like it's happening right now in one smooth stream. This is similar to how your eyes make tiny rapid movements called saccades, several times per second, jumping from point to point as you scan a scene. But you never experience the world as jumping around. Your brain suppresses the visual information during these movements and fills in the gaps, creating a stable scene. Time, like vision, is a construction, a useful fiction that your brain creates to help you navigate reality. Your perception of how fast time is passing depends heavily on attention, on what you're paying attention to, and how deeply you're engaged. When you're paying close attention to something, when you're engaged and interested, when you're in flow, your brain is encoding lots of rich, detailed memories. Every moment is being captured, examined, stored with care. Later, when you look back on that period, all those memories make it seem like a long time past. There's so much you remember, so much detail, that it must have been hours. But in the moment, because you're absorbed, because you're not watching the clock, time seems to fly. It's the paradox of engagement. The more present you are, the faster time feels in the moment, but the longer it seems in retrospect. Conversely, when you're bored and not encoding many memories, when nothing interesting is happening and your brain is on autopilot, time in the moment seems to drag. Every minute feels like an hour. You're painfully aware of time passing because you're not engaged, not absorbed. But looking back, that period seems short because there's not much to remember. It's like a blank space in your mental timeline, compressed by the lack of distinctive markers of memorable events. This is why childhood seems so long in retrospect, why those early years feel like they contained lifetimes. Everything is new when you're a child. You're encoding memories at a furious rate. Your brain is taking in the world with fresh eyes, learning constantly, being surprised and delighted and confused and overwhelmed. Every experience is novel, worth paying attention to, worth remembering. Summer vacation when you're 8 years old is packed with new experiences, new discoveries, new feelings. Looking back, it seems endless because there's so much stored there, so much richness, so much detail. But as you age and fall into routines, as you've seen most things before and done most things before, fewer novel experiences means fewer distinctive memories. Days blur together. Weeks blend into months. You look back and wonder where the time went, because your memory holds fewer markers, fewer distinctive moments that stand out. The years seem to accelerate, not because time itself is moving faster, but because you're creating less memorable time, less detailed encoding of your experiences. The emotional content of an experience also powerfully affects your perception of time. During moments of fear or intense emotion, time often seems to slow down. People report that accidents or dangerous situations seem to unfold in slow motion, that they had time to think, to notice details, to react, even though the event only lasted seconds. Their brain, flooded with stress hormones like adrenaline, shifts into a heightened state of awareness, paying intense attention, encoding memories in much greater detail. The amygdala, that emotional processing center, is fully engaged, tagging everything as important, worth remembering. Looking back, all that detail makes the experience seem longer than it actually was. Time dilated, stretched out by the intensity of attention and emotion. But your brain is also a prediction machine, constantly anticipating what's going to happen next. It's not just passively receiving information about the present. It's actively guessing about the immediate future, using past experience to generate expectations. When you reach for a doorknob, your brain is already predicting what it will feel like, what will happen when you turn it. When someone speaks to you, your brain is predicting the next word, the next phrase. This prediction happens unconsciously, automatically, constantly. When those predictions are confirmed, when reality matches expectation, everything feels smooth and seamless. Time flows naturally. But when they're violated, when something unexpected happens, when reality doesn't match the prediction, your brain has to update, has to pause and process this new information. And that surprise, that violation of expectation, gets flagged as important, worthy of attention and memory. Surprising moments seem to last longer because your brain is paying more attention to them, encoding them more deeply. This predictive nature is part of why time feels the way it does. Your brain is always slightly ahead of itself, preparing for what's coming. The present moment you experience is actually a blend of what just happened and what your brain expects to happen next. You're never quite here. You're in a kind of perceptual now that spans a little bit of past and a little bit of future, with the actual present moment, if such a thing exists, hidden somewhere in between. Memory plays a huge role in your experience of time, perhaps the defining role. Without memory, there would be no sense of time passing at all. Every moment would be isolated, disconnected from what came before. It's the ability to remember the past and compare it to the present that gives you a sense of duration, of time flowing from one moment to the next. Patients with severe amnesia who can't form new memories often feel trapped in an eternal present. They exist in the now, but it's a shallow now, without depth, without context. They can't construct a narrative of time passing because they can't remember what happened even a few minutes ago. The past disappears as soon as it happens, leaving only this moment over and over, forever new and forever alone. The brain regions involved in time perception are still being mapped out, but several areas seem to play important roles. The cerebellum, traditionally known for coordinating movement, also seems involved in timing, particularly in short intervals, the kind of precise timing you need to catch a ball or play a musical instrument. The basal ganglia, deep structures involved in habit and motor control, also contribute to time perception. The prefrontal cortex, that executive region, is involved in longer-term time perception, in planning future events, in sequencing actions across time. Some researchers think there might be internal clocks, neural oscillations that tick away at regular intervals and help your brain measure duration. These would be like the clock circuits in a computer, providing a regular beat against which other processes can be timed. Others think time perception is more distributed, arising from the overall pattern of neural activity rather than any specific clock mechanism. Maybe time emerges from the flow of information through your brain, from the rate at which things change and update. The jury is still out, and it's likely that both mechanisms play a role, that time perception involves both dedicated timing circuits and more general properties of neural dynamics. What's certain is that your experience of time is constructed, flexible, and deeply subjective. It's not simply read off from some objective clock in the external world. It's created by your brain, shaped by attention, emotion, memory, expectation. The past exists only in memory, in the reconstructions we talked about earlier. It's not stored somewhere waiting to be accessed. It's recreated each time you remember it. The future exists only in imagination, in your brain's predictions and plans. It hasn't happened yet. It's a collection of possibilities, of anticipated scenarios that may or may not come to pass. All you ever truly have is the present moment, this ever-moving now. And even this now, as we've seen, is not a single instant, but a brief window, a little stretch of time that your brain presents to you as the current moment. The leading edge of experience, the growing tip of your personal timeline. Everything else is thought, is representation, is your brain's way of organizing and making sense of experience. There's something deeply philosophical about this, something that echoes across cultures and centuries. It's what mystics and meditators and contemplatives have been saying for millennia. Be here now. The present moment is all there is. Not because the past and future don't matter, but because they don't exist in the same way the present does. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only the present is immediate. Only the present is actually happening. Your brain, for all its complexity, for all its ability to remember backwards and project forwards, can only ever be right here, right now. The past is a story it tells. The future is a guess it makes. But this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this sensation, this is real. This is happening. As you rest here, you can feel it, can't you? The nowness of now. The way everything else, all your thoughts about past and future, all your worries and plans and memories, all of it is just thought, just mental content passing through. But this, the feeling of your body in contact with the surface beneath you, the sound of these words or the silence after them, the gentle rise and fall of your breath, the sensation of being here, all of it is happening in an eternal present that never ends, because it's never really anywhere else. The present moment isn't a point on a timeline. It's the only point. It's where you always are, where you've always been, where you'll always be. Time is a gift your brain gives you, a way of organizing experience, of making sense of cause and effect, of planning and remembering, and being a person with a continuous story. It's essential for survival, for learning, for existing as a human being in a complex world. But underneath that gift is a simpler truth, a truth that your brain knows even if your mind forgets. You are here, now, always now, forever now. And that now is the only place you've ever been or ever will be. Everything else, all of history, all of possible futures, all of it is contained in this moment, in the patterns firing in your brain right now, creating time out of timelessness, creating the experience of duration out of the eternal present, creating the story of a life unfolding across days and years, when really there's just this, just now, just the endless miracle of being aware, of experiencing, of existing in the only moment that ever is. And so we come to the end of our journey together, though, of course, there is no real end. Your brain continues. The soft galaxy continues its endless conversation. The patterns shift and change and flow, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are still here, still being, still experiencing this extraordinary gift of awareness that somehow emerges from flesh and chemistry and electricity. We've explored some of the wonders of the brain tonight, its softness and its strength, the paradox of something so delicate holding everything you are. The billions of neurons and trillions of connections forming a cosmos inside your skull, more complex than anything else we know of in the universe. The way it never sleeps, just dances differently through the night, tending to itself, cleaning and consolidating and preparing for tomorrow. Its remarkable ability to change and grow and adapt, reshaping itself in response to your experiences, proving that you're never finished becoming who you are. The way it burns energy like a quiet star, even when you're at rest, doing the invisible work of maintaining consciousness, of being you. The fluid, reconstructive nature of memory, always being rewritten, proving that the past is not fixed, and neither are you. The distributed mystery of consciousness, everywhere and nowhere at once, a pattern that emerges from complexity. And the subjective, constructed nature of time, which is really just an eternal now, dressed up in stories of past and future. Your brain is listening to these words right now. Isn't that strange and wonderful? The thing we've been talking about is the thing doing the talking and the listening. It's experiencing itself being described. It's aware of its own awareness. This recursive loop, this strange knot of consciousness, is what you are. And it's extraordinary. It's miraculous. It's the universe waking up and looking at itself and saying, I am. You carry more complexity in your head than exists in any other known structure in the universe. More connections than stars in a galaxy. More patterns than could ever be counted. More possibilities than could ever be exhausted. And all of it is working together to create you. To create this moment. To create the experience of lying here, breathing, being at peace, being aware of being aware. Think about the journey your brain has taken to be here. It started as a small cluster of cells in the womb, a tiny tube of neural tissue that folded and grew and differentiated into the incredibly complex structure it is now. It's been with you since the beginning, developing before you were born, preparing for the moment you'd need it. It was there for your first breath, your first cry, your first sensation of light and sound and touch. It learned to control your body, to make sense of the overwhelming flood of sensory input, to distinguish self from other. It guided you through childhood, soaking up language and faces and facts and skills at an astonishing rate. Every fall you took, it learned. Every word you heard, it processed and stored. Every face you saw, it attempted to understand and remember. It kept you safe, even when you didn't know you needed protecting. Pulling your hand back from hot things. Making you cry when you were hurt so someone would come help. Creating fear of heights and darkness and strangers to keep your fragile young body alive. It navigated the storms of adolescence, rewiring itself dramatically as hormones flooded your system and your sense of self shifted and crystallized. It dealt with the intensity of new emotions, the confusion of identity, the desperate need for belonging, and the equally desperate need for independence. It made mistakes, certainly. It overreacted and underestimated and misunderstood. But it learned, it adapted, it grew, and it's brought you here to this moment with all your accumulated experiences, all your joys and sorrows, all your triumphs and failures, all of it encoded in the pattern of connections that makes you you. Every person you've loved, every place you've been, every book you've read, every song you've heard, every sunset you've watched, every meal you've eaten, every conversation you've had, all of it has left its mark. All of it has shaped the brain you carry now. As you continue to rest, or perhaps drift towards sleep, I want you to know something deeply and truly. You are more miraculous than you usually give yourself credit for. In the routine of daily life, in the stress and worry and endless tasks, it's easy to forget how extraordinary it is that you exist at all, that you're conscious, that you can experience beauty and love and wonder, that you can think and feel and imagine and remember. These are not small things. These are not givens. These are miracles. The simple fact that you exist, that you're here right now, aware of these words, aware of your own existence, this is the most improbable and precious thing. Every moment you're alive, your brain is performing quiet miracles. It's maintaining your heartbeat without you having to think about it. It's breathing for you. It's regulating your temperature, fighting off diseases, healing wounds, all beneath your awareness. And above that level of basic survival, it's creating your entire subjective experience of reality. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, the emotions you feel, the thoughts you think, all of it is being created, moment by moment, by this soft galaxy inside your skull. Be gentle with yourself. Please, be gentle. That soft thing inside your skull is doing its best. It's trying to keep you safe, to help you find joy, to make sense of an often confusing and sometimes painful world. It gets tired. Of course it does. It makes mistakes. Of course it does. It reconstructs memories imperfectly and loses track of time and sometimes feels like it's falling apart. But it's also capable of incredible things that we've barely touched on tonight. It can learn new languages, even in adulthood. It can master musical instruments. It can understand abstract mathematics and create art and write poetry and build cathedrals and compose symphonies. It can love deeply and completely, creating bonds with other brains that are just as real and just as important as any physical connection. It can find beauty in the smallest moments, a dewdrop on a spiderweb, the laugh of a child, the smell of rain. It can imagine futures that don't exist yet and work to make them real. It can change its mind, admit it was wrong, grow in understanding and compassion. Your brain can recover from injury in ways that seem miraculous. It can root around damage, finding new pathways, recruiting other regions to take over lost functions. People have relearned to walk, to talk, to remember after injuries that seemed devastating. The brain's resilience, its plasticity, its stubborn refusal to give up, this is built into its nature. It's an organ designed for adaptation, for survival, for growth. And it can find beauty in the most unexpected places. Even in pain, even in difficulty, your brain can sometimes extract meaning, can find the lesson, can grow from the experience. This is not to glorify suffering or to say that pain is good, but it is to acknowledge that your brain has this remarkable capacity to make meaning, to find connection, to transform experience into wisdom. Whatever you're carrying right now, whatever worries or fears or hopes or dreams are playing through your mind, your brain is working on it. Even as you rest, even as you let go, the patterns are shifting beneath your awareness. Connections are being made that you won't consciously notice, but that will influence your thoughts and feelings tomorrow. Problems that seem intractable today may appear different in the morning, not because the problems have changed, but because your brain has had time to process, to organize, to find new angles. You don't have to force this process. You don't have to solve everything right now. In fact, you can't. Some things require time, require sleep, require the background work that happens when you're not actively trying. You can trust the process. You can trust your brain to do what it does best, which is simply to be, to adapt, to keep becoming. It's been doing this since before you were conscious, and it will continue until your very last moment. You can relax into that trust. You can let go of the need to control or manage or fix everything right this second. The night is here, or perhaps the quiet of day, but either way, this is a time for rest, for letting go, for trusting that you are held by your own biology, by 3 pounds of soft, fatty, watery miracle that has been with you since birth and will be with you until the end. It knows you better than anyone. It knows you from the inside, knows your fears and hopes, your patterns and preferences, your strengths and vulnerabilities. It is you, not separate from you, not a tool you use, but you yourself, experiencing and being experienced. And it's asking you to rest now, to let the dance continue without your conscious intervention, to sleep, perhaps, and let the cleaning systems flow and the memories consolidate and the dreams do their mysterious work. Or simply to rest quietly, to let your mind wander, to release the grip of constant doing and planning and worrying, to just be here, breathing, existing, taking up space in the universe without apology or justification. You are safe. Right now, in this moment, you are safe. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, whatever difficulties you're facing, right now you are here, you are breathing, you are alive. Your brain is taking care of you. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are breathing. Your body is doing its work. You are being held by your own being. And you can rest in that. You can surrender to the deep biological wisdom that has kept humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years, that knows how to rest, how to heal, how to prepare for tomorrow. You are cared for. Maybe not in every way you wish, maybe not by every person you'd hope, but you are cared for by this remarkable thing inside you that never stops working on your behalf. Even when you're harsh with yourself, even when you doubt yourself, even when you feel alone. Your brain is there, loyal and constant, doing everything it can to help you survive and thrive. It's creating pleasant dreams to process difficult emotions. It's remembering happy moments to give you comfort. It's imagining better futures to give you hope. It deserves your gratitude, your compassion, your gentleness. You are, in this moment and every moment, a universe experiencing itself. And that universe is vast and strange and beautiful beyond measure. It contains multitudes. It contains contradictions. It contains both light and shadow, both joy and sorrow, both certainty and doubt. All of it is part of being human. All of it is held within the soft boundaries of your skull, processed and experienced and understood by this magnificent organ we've been exploring together. So, breathe slowly. Let your muscles relax, starting from your toes and moving up through your legs, your hips, your belly, your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your neck, your face. Let everything soften. Feel the softness of your brain floating in its protective fluid, cradled in bone, held in darkness. Feel the billions of neurons quietly humming, doing their endless dance, creating you from moment to moment. the soft sparks of electricity, the gentle flow of chemicals, the patterns forming and dissolving and forming again. All of it happening without effort, without strain, without you having to do anything at all. You don't have to be anywhere else. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to be anyone else. This is enough. Right here, right now, exactly as you are. This is enough. You are enough. Your brain knows this, even if your mind sometimes forgets. You are complete. You are whole. You are exactly what you need to be in this moment. And this moment is perfect in its imperfection, complete in its incompleteness, whole in its brokenness. The universe that you are is perfect exactly as it is, not because it has no flaws or struggles or challenges, but because it's real, it's authentic, it's genuinely experiencing, genuinely being, genuinely here. And that realness, that authenticity, that here-ness is more valuable than any imagined perfection could ever be. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for being present, for giving your attention to this exploration of the brain. Thank you for being the extraordinary, impossible, miraculous thing you are. Thank you for existing, for adding your unique pattern to the grand pattern of the universe, for being the particular expression of consciousness that you are. No one else can be you. No one else has your exact combination of memories and experiences and perspectives. You are genuinely unique, genuinely irreplaceable, genuinely valuable. May you rest well tonight. May your dreams be gentle, or if not gentle, may they be useful. May they process what needs processing. May you wake refreshed and ready, or if not ready, at least willing to try. May you remember, perhaps not the details of these words, but the feeling of wonder, the feeling of being held, the feeling that you are more than you thought you were, and also exactly what you need to be, the feeling that you are not alone, because you carry a universe inside you, and that universe is always in conversation with itself, always experiencing, always being. May you treat yourself with the gentleness you deserve. May you recognize the miracle of your own existence. May you be patient with your brain as it does its work, as it learns and grows and sometimes struggles. May you remember that you are a process, not a product, always becoming, never finished, and that this is exactly as it should be. The soft galaxy rests now. Or perhaps it continues its dance, but either way, it's doing exactly what it needs to do. The quiet star dims to a gentle glow, conserving energy for tomorrow, while still maintaining the essential work of being. And you are simply here, in this moment, in this breath, in this eternal now that is the only place you've ever been, the only place you'll ever be. Sleep well, if sleep is what comes next. Let go into the darkness, trusting that you'll surface again when it's time, that the dawn will come, that your brain will have done its nighttime work and will be ready to create another day of experience for you. Or simply rest, if rest is what you need. Let your mind wander. Let thoughts drift through like clouds across a sky. Don't grasp them. Don't push them away. Just let them be, passing through the vast space of awareness that you are. You are exactly where you need to be, not just physically in this place, at this time, but in your life, in your journey, in your becoming, exactly where you need to be. The path that brought you here, with all its turns and detours and obstacles, was the only path that could have brought you here. And here is perfect. Here is enough. Here is home. Rest now. Let go. Surrender to the wisdom of your body, the patience of your brain, the mystery of consciousness. You are held. You are safe. You are in this moment and always exactly enough. The soft galaxy sparkles in the darkness. The quiet star burns gently. And you are simply here, breathing, being, experiencing the extraordinary, ordinary miracle of being alive and aware. Rest well. Be well. You are a wonder. You are a miracle. You are exactly what the universe needed to create in this moment. And all is well. All is well. All manner of things are well. Sleep now, or rest, or simply be. You are home.